happy to, it looks like a Sholay, but who is Amitabh Bachchan, who is Dharmendra, don't ask me. I leave it to the audience. But I'm sure the GPCP is our Vijay Kumar Gupta ji. Okay. Right. So definitely this 5-day will be a very, very memorable one. And today's session especially is a very, very important topic compared to the yesterday one. So both the topics are very important, especially 104 and 105. 104 is on basis of value and 105 is on VAM, the valuation, approaches and methods. Most important. So just give me a few seconds. I will share my screen with the content. Yes. We have close to 90 participants and okay. We have close to 90 participants online. And once again, I welcome each and every one of you for today's webinar, evening webinar. Being a very technical subject, I wish it should be interactive. So time and again, I will be putting some queries, some mini questions, small query. So wish the participants interact for those queries, maybe with a word or a sentence, a small sentence with an answer. So that will actually make the process of our learning much more clear. Coming to today's topic, out of this 5 general standards, these are the 5 general standards. Please look at the right hand side. The 5 general standards are 101, 102, 103, 104 and 105. I have equated to our Indian standards also, ICA RVO standard. Every now and then, I will also refer to the Indian standards for only one reason. Valuation standard is a prescription of the best practices. I repeat, valuation standard is a prescription of best practices. So wherever the best practices are there, maybe if it is a best of the best, we have to take it. And that is why there are places where I will be referring to the equivalent valuation standard of IVS. The equivalent valuation standard of IVS 105, you can see in ICA RVO valuation standard 103, valuation approaches and methods, the same. That is a one standard which you can see almost same to IVS. But there are places where IVS supersedes ICA RVO, and there are other places where ICA RVO are much more clearer and much more, the prescription is very best and better compared to the Indian scenario. So I'll try to actually focus on all. And as of today, the profession is moving in such a direction. The profession of valuation is moving in such a direction where the valuers have to necessarily understand the prescriptions of the best practice, and we need to actually implement it so that our reports become a bulletproof report. Now, with this backdrop, I will actually take you through. I will personally recommend you to have a printout of the IVS 2020, which is applicable from 31st of January 2020. A physical copy, so that many places we can actually refer to understand what the standard actually prescribes. And I will also be supplementing through my PowerPoint what actually the standard prescribes practically. And you have 90 sections. You can call it as 90 sections here. It is not paragraphs, because under each and every section you have the paragraphs. So you have section number 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So under each and every section, you have various subsections. For example, introduction itself, you have 10 subsections. You have 10 sections, we can say. So those are called, 90 sections, and each and every section you will have the paras. For example, section number 10, you have 10 paras. Section number 20, you will have actually 6 paras. So therefore, let us understand one by one. And I will start with one point before I maybe venture into the various approaches and methods. The hierarchy of the valuation approaches and methods. For example, there is an assignment to value a company. There is an assignment, there is an engagement of work to do the valuation of buyback of shares. There is an engagement to do the valuation of ESOP. There is an engagement to do the valuation of shares between two shareholders, because one is actually diluting his share. There is a need to actually do the valuation of the business, because a second round of investor or a third round of investors are ready to actually invest in the venture capital company. Now, let us assume these are all some of the avenues open before you. Now, what is the first step? The first step is purpose. Understand what the purpose of the valuation is. Now, when you say the purpose, I need to very clearly distinguish between 4 things before I go into it. Number 1, purpose. Number 2, I repeat, number 2, the base. Number 3, the premise. I repeat, the premise. So purpose, base, then premise, then the valuation approaches, and under the valuation approach, you have the methods. So, 8 वो सीढ़ियां हैं. So 5 सीढ़ी हैं. So first tier 1, I'll say tier 1. The tier 1 is actually purpose. Tier 2 is actually the base. The third tier is premise. The fourth tier is approaches, and under that, methods. So once we have freezed what the purpose of the valuation, base of the value, and the premise, going for the next point, that is called the valuation approach, will be easy. Okay, so that is why this is in the 105. It is not that we directly jump into this particular approaches immediately. Once an assignment is there, okay, we'll directly go for income approach. No. Based on your purpose and base, only I will choose the approach. So that is why there will be references to 104 when you read 105. I repeat, guys, there will be references to 104 when you read 105. So I will presume that you had a fair idea about 104, and wherever you need a little more clarity, I am sure Ankit would have made you much more clearer about the base part. So I'll try to actually supplement with 105 today. So I'm sure with cooperation from each and every one of you, we have 105 participants now. Thank you very much. Good. So please look at section number 20, 30. 20 is approaches and 30 is market approach methods. 40 is income approach, 50 is income approach methods. 60 is cost approach and 70 is cost approach methods. Then you have two more sections. One deals with the depreciation, the other deals with valuation model. Good. I will say each and every paragraph and section is very important. So let me now start with the first section. So I will call this as maybe now I think this part is very clear. So you have the paragraphs and subparas, and the paras only I will call it as section. And subparas maybe I'll call it as paragraphs. Okay, so good. So you have the 90, the otherwise called the 9 sections. And these are all the number of the paras in each and every sections. So let me now take you to each and every one of it. Number 1. So your first section is introduction part. And in introduction, you have actually 10 paragraphs. Let me take you through these paragraphs. And I will tell you guys, there are 3 words you have to be very careful with. Whenever the word must is there, please look at this word must. Those paragraphs where the word must is there, please note it down that it is a mandatory one. It is mandatory. There are 3 words they will be using. One is called must. The other one is called as may. And the third one is called as should. These 3 words will be there. And wherever the word may is there, you can actually ignore that para also. That prescription is only an additional prescription, or it will be good if you implement it or practice it. So the word may is not a mandate one. But wherever the word must is there and should is there, it has to be done. But if you ask an English teacher, what is the word must, what is the word should? An English teacher will say, okay, both are same, synonymous word only. You can actually interchange both. But the standard doesn't say that. The standard says, yam must means what the prescription or the direction of wife, and should means the direction of mother. For example, mother says, go to mandi or kuch sabji lana. So there is a direction by mother to buy actually baingan. So go there and the baingan is not there. So instead of baingan, you actually buy say bindi. So should is a word. The standard itself will prescribe, I repeat, the standard itself will prescribe that you should, it indicates responsibility that are presumptively mandatorily, and valuer must comply with the requirements of the day unless the valuer demonstrate that alternative actions which were followed. Please look at this word, alternative. So instead of buying, you have actually bought bindi. Good. But what is must? The word must is actually where should in the standard, that is in para number 20.10 in glossary. You can see that 20.10 in glossary. There, should is actually been explained, but must is 20.7 in glossary, the same IVS. It is just 3 lines. It says must indicates unconditional responsibility. That's all. Wife will say, go to mandi, buy. Buying means that's all. Only one answer. And you have to ensure that it is done. So must. So the word must indicates an unconditional responsibility. So wherever in the standard must is there, I will halt like a red color, orange color, okay, and the green color. So green color means may, orange means actually should, red means must. So please be careful with this. So consideration must be given to the relevant and appropriate valuation approaches. The three approaches described and defined below are the main approaches. Now, what does this English mean? They are all based on the economic principles of price equilibrium, anticipation of benefits, or substitution. The principal valuation approaches are, they don't conclude that these are the only three approaches. For your kind information, guys, that means you have the fourth approach also. Please look at the word. The three approaches described and defined below are main approaches. Please look at this word. They are the main approaches. Now, I'll give you one very interesting word. In Income Tax Act, in FEMA, okay, in Income Tax Act and in FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act, they use a concept. For example, in Income Tax Act, rule number 11 UA you can take. There, they use a word called the asset approach, the net asset approach. Of course, it is a mix of both the market approach and the cost approach. I can tell you that, but there they say it is called the net asset approach. So where net asset is, that means you have more than three approaches are also there. So, but both the standards, that is both IVS as well as ICRVO, both the standards, they only advocate three approaches. Okay. So the principal valuation approaches. So if there are principal valuation approaches, you will have secondary valuation approaches. You have tertiary valuation approaches. Okay. Good. So approach is like your you have a direction. You are on a crossroad. You have three roads that is going. You have to choose the road. Now there is one more question I'll put. Can I go in both the roads? Can I take all the three roads? I want to actually go in the cost approach as well as in market approach as well as in income approach, and I want to find a value. Okay. So yeah, कर सकते हैं, क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं. Good. 10.2, please look at this. Each of these approaches includes different details, method of application. Arithmetics are different. Okay. Approaches are different. Then 10.3, I want you to focus on the selection process should consider at the minimum. So please look at this. The goal in selecting valuation approach. So which approach I will select? I'll select market approach. I'll select income approach. I'll select cost approach. Which approach I will select? The goal in selecting approaches and method is to find, and the method for an asset is to find the most appropriate method under the particular circumstance. And in your valuation report, both in the company's registered valuers and valuation rules 2017, rule number 8, sub rule 3, they have given 12 content. In out of those 12 content, one of the content is actually valuation approaches. And in ICRVO, there also they mentioned out of the 13 point, they give one of the items is valuation methods. You have to give valuation methods. In 103, I am sure 103, you would have seen it. In 103, para number 30.1, they have given, that is para number 30.1 C and D. There they have given the approach or approaches adopted should be must conveyed at a minimum in your valuation report. They say that. That is 30.1 C and 30.1 D. There also they say the method applied in the report must convey at a minimum. So both the approaches and methods should be, must be, not should, must. Para number 30.1 IVS 103 uses the word must. So please be careful with this. So now the goal in selecting valuation approaches and methods for an asset This is the most appropriate method under the particular circumstance. And the selection process should consider at the minimum. Please look at this. All these you have already done. The appropriate basis means single. Basis means plural. Basis is singular. And premise. Please look at this. The selection process should consider at the minimum. So that means if I have to select a approach, I should have basis and premises. Without that, I cannot go far. The selection process should consider at the minimum. Without considering basis and premises, you shouldn't go for approaches. This is what I mentioned. That is why the hierarchy, purpose, next is base, then premise, then only approach. Because for approach, you need these two. Determined by the terms and purpose of valuation, purpose. So, basis and premise is determined by the terms and purpose. Okay. And what is terms? I'm sure terms, you would have already seen what it is. The terms is already discussed in scope. I think in scope it has already been discussed. What do you mean by terms? It has already been given. Para number 10.1, they are given the terms of engagement. Determined by the terms. What is the terms? Three things are terms. What is it? Such as the asset being valued, purpose of valuation, and responsibilities of parties. This is called terms and purpose. Okay, so good. So without this, you can't decide approach. So approach is actually on top of the pyramid. So bottommost is purpose. The next step is actually the basis or the basis. You can have multiple bases also. Okay, multiple bases also. The next is the premise of value. And the next step is approach. Okay, good. The respective strengths and weaknesses of the possible valuation approaches and methods. Now, this is very interesting. This, they say minimum you should consider. Now, you may consider cost approach will have some minus, some strength is also there. Income approach, strength is there, weakness is there. All this, it has to be the respective strength and weakness of the approaches and methods should be considered. Okay, some of the reports, they give all the three approaches, and the best approach, I'm just deliberating it. So I mean, you may also add a supplement to it. There are some of the valuation reports, they narrate the, what do you call it, as the market approach, the plus and the minus in that approach with respect to the purpose, basis, and the premise. And if the plus points are lesser than, are being overcasted, or it is superseded by the negative pointers, they will actually drop it by giving a line for so and so reason. This approach may not be reasonable or appropriate. May not be reasonable or appropriate. Okay, good. Similarly, you have to go for the other approaches. The appropriateness of each method. Please look at this. In view of the nature of the asset and the approaches or methods used by participant in the relevant market. So I just know I discussed about the appropriate. You have to say that. Sometimes all the three approaches may be appropriate. So then say all the three seems to be appropriate. And availability of relevant information needed to apply the methods. So what are all the data I'm being provided by management from market, third-party data? So what is the information being provided to me? So that is 10.3. Now come to 10.4. And I'll just put a question to all of you from this. The question, I'll actually type it here. Should purpose, comma, should purpose of valuation must for determining, should purpose of valuation must for determining valuation approach, ROACH. Yes or no? Please type, guys. Should purpose of valuation must for determining Valuation approach, yes or no? So I'm only getting 3 answers. We have 116 people out there. Good. Now, how about, very good. Yes, 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 yes. Is one basis, very good, very good, sufficient or multiple bases required for, is one basis sufficient or multiple bases required for deciding valuation approach? Is one basis sufficient or multiple bases required for deciding valuation approach? So Rajiv says it depends on case to case, sufficient. One is minimum, one is required. Very good. Recommended. One. Multiple may also be used. May also be used. Correct. Minimum one, multiple. Good. Depends on case to case. Basis and premises, multiple. Good. No, one base is not sufficient. Weightage method may be used. Preeti Garg. Good. Multiple bases. Okay. Depends on case. Sometimes one or more as per case. Okay. Good. So very interesting. So that is why, please look at this, guys. The appropriate basis. So even one is sufficient. Or multiple bases also you can consider. So that is why your answer is one or above. Or minimum one is must. Minimum one is must. Okay. So you can't jump to a conclusion that you need two bases or multiple bases is required. It is not a criteria. Okay. Good. Now, let me now take you to the next slide, 10.4. Okay, good. 10.4. Now, valuers are not required to use more than one method for the valuation of an asset, particularly when the valuer has a high degree of confidence and accuracy and reliability of a single method, given the facts and circumstances of the valuation engagement. This paragraph is very interesting. What they say, if valuers are not required to use more than one method, not required to use more than one method. No, 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 I will use 2 methods, I'll use 3 methods, I'll give weightage to it, weighting to it. Then I'll take average, or I will give weightage and I will negate some of the methods. Can I do that? You can do that, but please look at this prescription. They are not required to use more than one method of an asset, particularly when the valuer has high degree of confidence in accuracy and reliability on a single method, given the facts and circumstances of the valuation engagement. That means purpose. With respect to the purpose and with respect to the inputs, you have chosen one particular method and you have high degree of confidence in that, reliability in that, then you don't need multiplicity of methods. Okay, this is one prescription. However, valuer should consider the use of multiple approaches. So the first para speaks about method. The second para, however, speaks about approaches. And more than one valuation approach or method should be considered and may be used to arrive at an indication of value. Please underline this word. Please underline this word called indication. That's all. Now, from this, you have to actually arrive at the right value. They only indicate a value, particularly when there are insufficient factual or observable input for single method. What is observable input is actually been defined in IND AS 113 itself. IND AS 113, they define what is observable input. Assumptions are called observable inputs. When there are insufficient factual or observable inputs for single method to produce a reliable conclusion, then you go for, because more assumptions are there, you go for more than one method. And this para is very interesting. When more than one approach and method is used, or even multiple methods within a single approach, the conclusion of value. This para is very important, guys. Very, very, very important. Okay. So use binocular. Okay. To zoom it. We are already in Zoom only, but this para you zoom it. There more than one approach and method is used. First para, use only one method. If you are confident, don't go to that. But the moment you have insufficient factual, observable inputs, means more assumptions for a single method, then use multiple approaches in under that one method or two method. Go for it, which will give an indication of value. Now, which one I will choose out of this? So you have some say 4 answers are there. 4 answers, char indications are there. Then which one I will choose? Will I add all the 4, divide by 4? Simple average I will take. No, please wait. There they say the value based on those multiple approaches should be reasonable. This word is very important. Reasonable. That means reason out. You have to reason out. You have to actually find out why you are actually placing. Are you placing equal reliance on all 4? Then you add and divide by 4. No. I am placing reliance 80% on method 3. Then 20% reliance you are placing on what? Okay, method 4. Then ignore 1 and 2. Give weightage only for 3 and 4. Kaam khatam ho gaya. Or 95% you are placing reliance on method 3. That 5% is immaterial. Ignore. That is the value for you. That is called weighting. Okay. And the process of analyzing and reconciling the differing valuer into a single conclusion without averaging should be described by the valuer in the report. Please look at this. Because why he has been confident? He has done the multiple calculations, multiple approaches under the methods, but he reasons out and then negates out. Okay, he puts it out. Okay, points it out, and thereby he says, and reconciling the differing valuer into a single conclusion without averaging should be described by the valuer in the report. Should be described. See, this is very important part. So, in case you are going to zero in, you have to give the reason, that story, that fact, why you are choosing that particular one. And nobody is going to question you guys. Okay, but reasoning it out is an exercise, is a mandate, it is a prescription. Okay, under 10.4. So very important one. Okay, good. The next we have 10.5. Those things that were cut off are the paras from 2017. Okay, 2017 IVS. So they have actually removed that sentence. Yeah. While the standard includes discussion of certain methods within the cost, market, and income approach, this standard includes discussion of certain methods. So the methods, what is being prescribed in the standard is not a conclusive that this is the only method, but this is only a beginning method for all your understanding. Okay, so we have to go very fast. We are still in here only. It does not provide a comprehensive list of all possible methods that may be appropriate. So this paragraph only says that we don't give maximum all these methods to you. It is valuer's responsibility to choose the appropriate method for each assignment. Very important. So which method you have to select? Sometimes that method may not be there as part of the standard. Compliance with IVS may require the valuer to use a method not defined or mentioned in IVS. So some of the method may not be even defined in or explained in the standard, but you have to choose it. Okay. So all methods have not been given in standard. So standard is not comprehensive. Standard in terms of method is only illustrative. Please note it down. In terms of method, it is only illustrative. So you can actually bring out other methods. Good. Now 10.6. When different approaches and methods result in widely divergent indication of value, the valuer should perform procedures to understand why the value indication differ as it is generally not appropriate to simply weight two or more divergent indication of value. In such cases, valuers should recognize guidance in para 10.3 to determine whether one of the approaches provides a better or more reliable indication of value, which already I have discussed. Okay, right. Next. 10.7. This is a very, very important para. I'll tell you. Valuers should maximize the use of relevant observable market information in all three approaches. Whatever data that has been given to you, observable information, try to maximize it in terms of calculations. Regardless of the sources of the inputs and assumptions used in the valuation, a valuer must perform appropriate analysis to evaluate those inputs and their appropriateness for the valuation purpose. Sometimes the data may be inappropriate, incomplete. You may need more inputs. Ignore that, so that method you can actually dump it. Or you need not place reliance on that method. Okay, because sometimes those data you may have to actually corroborate. It is not audit, but you have to corroborate, because data are given by sometimes these observable inputs. You may do it, then it is corroborated. If it is being provided by management, you need to corroborate it. So that is very important. That point actually we will discuss in the later part also. Although no one approach or method is applicable in all circumstances. Okay, this is a very important para 10.8. Price information from an active market where transactions are done, very important, where the normal transactions are done, we call it as an active market, is generally considered to be the strongest evidence of value. Okay, price information from an active market. You have actually other two markets are all principal market as well as the most advantageous market, so which actually we use for the fair value purpose. But with respect to the valuation methods, take information from an active market and generally considered to be the strongest evidence. Okay, please. And this is a prescription by standard itself. Some basis of value may prohibit a valuer from making subjective adjustments to price information from an active market. Price information from an inactive market may still be good evidence, but subjective adjustments may be needed. Very important. Please catch this word. Even from an inactive market or from a very slow market, okay, or a poorly active market, you can actually take that, but you have to do some adjustment. Maybe you have to pad it up. Okay, you have to add some premium to it. 10.9 para speaks about, in certain circumstances, the valuer and client may agree on approaches and methods and procedures the valuer will use, or the extent of procedures the valuer will perform. This is very important. Where in the terms of engagement itself, they will mention agreement between the client and the valuer. Okay, this is the approach I will take. Good. So client is to that extent knowledgeable, cooperative, and very transparent. Depending on the limitations placed on the valuer and procedures performed, such circumstances may result in a valuation that is not IVS compliant. Very important para. Depending on the limitations placed on the valuer and procedures performed, such circumstances may result in a valuation that is not IVS compliant. Please look at that first para and second para. I will read it once again. In certain circumstances, the valuer and client may agree on the valuation approaches, methods, and procedures the valuer will use, or the extent of procedures the valuer will perform. This is agreed between the client and the valuer, depending on the limitations placed on the valuer and procedures performed. Technically, if the arrangement says method to be followed, A method, please follow. But I will not, don't take years beyond 3 years. Don't ask past data, audited data. I will provide a data, that data you try to extrapolate it. So the moment limitations are placed, then you are not IVS compliant. You are not IVS compliant, because that is why the first para and second para, you have to read it properly. What is first para? Valuer and client may agree. May agree. So it is not must, it is not should. May agree. But depending on the limitation placed on the valuer and procedure, such circumstances may result. Again, the word is may. So therefore, if at all, if it is an impediment on the valuer with respect to the limitations, then that valuation is not international valuation standard compliant. It is non-compliant to IVS. So this para is very, very important, sensitive para. Okay, good. 10.10. Evaluation may be limited or restricted where the valuer is not able to employ the valuation approaches, methods, and procedures that a reasonable and informed third party would perform. And it is reasonable to expect that effect of the limitation or restriction on the estimate of value could be material. This is also a probable a deviation. Evaluation may be limited or restricted where the valuer is not able to employ the valuation approaches that a reasonable and informed third party would perform. And it is reasonable to expect that effect on the limitation or restriction on the estimation. So no, time is very less. So yesterday night only he gave the appointment. Today morning by 10 o'clock report has to be given. So I didn't have time to actually corroborate. So I actually took the previous year report, the past report. I copied a model of the report and I did. So you can't come to these things. Those are all actually handicapness. So that is not the purpose of standard. So that is why they say evaluation may be limited or restricted where the valuer is not able to employ the approaches, methods, and procedures. So every valuation report is unique, different, distinct. Two persons are not same. Two persons' PAN number is not same. Their body features are not same. So therefore, they say your mole in left hand, right hand, the what do you call it as the features, identification marks. It is not same. Your thumb impression is not same. Your retina is not same. So maybe everybody have eyes, everybody have nose, everybody have mouth and fingers. All those the biological features are there, but the respective identity, very unique identities, that only makes a person unique. So you can't actually dilute those uniqueness with respect to evaluation report. That's what 10.10 says. So this 10 para is very important, what we are going to do now. Now please come to market approach. And after going for a market approach, you need to understand there are three methods in market approach. One is the comparable transaction method. Then you have the guideline publicly traded comparable method. And you have the other market approach consideration. So we have to see all the three. Quickly, let us see one by one. So what is the market approach? The market approach provides an indication of value. Please look at this. Indication of value by comparing the asset with identical or comparable, that is similar assets, for which price information is available. Please, this word is very important. Price information is available. Information available. If information is not available, what to do? Okay, if information is not available. Now, identical means what, where you will take, comparable, what you will take. That is why the moment it is comparable, you have to go for DLOM, DLOC, the discount for lack of marketability, discount for lack of control, and discount for lack of control and control premium, both are connected together. So let me explain that. And then you have a blockage discount. So let us understand all this. So you need to do some adjustments. So in accounting, I'm sure many of you are professionals. Okay. In accounting, I will say doing a adjustment is a sin. Doing an adjustment is a sin in accounting. But in valuation, not doing an adjustment is a sin. In a valuation, not doing an adjustment. So, कुछ तो adjustment करना चाहिए. So I will add 10%, which 20% करेंगे. I will tweak up. I will 20%. I will tweak down. So when you will do that? So standard gives you that prescription. So it's very you can do it actually. You can actually do that arithmetic, taking it up and bringing it down. You can do that. So how do you do that? And why do you do it? And what is the prescription? Okay. And when you will actually add control premium, when you will actually discount for marketability, so they are giving that. So when it is identical, you won't do that. The moment it is comparable, then you have to do this. Okay, good. So let's go into it. And I'm sure all of you are valuers. You would have come across this in your examination also. Good. So let's see one by one. Yeah. The market approach. So we have para number 20.2. Should be applied and afforded significant weight under the following circumstances. And please understand, there is a difference between weight and weighting. Okay, and this is given in IVS glossary. So what is weight? It refers to the amount of reliance placed on a particular indication of value to reach a conclusion. Especially when a single method is used, it is called 100% weight. When there are more than one factors are there, you will give weight to each factor. For one factor, you will give 78%. The other factor, you will get 22%. So then that is called weight. Now, what is weighting? Refers to the process of analyzing and reconciling differing indication of value, typically from different methods or approaches. This process does not include averaging, very important, which is not acceptable. So here, you may have multiple methods and you will arrive at a value. And in that, you will give weightage or weighting to one particular method and you will negate the other. Why? Because the approaches is reasonable and you will reason it out. And that reasoning gives weighting. Weighting, not WAITING. वो तो different है. ये weighting है. So I am giving more weighting. WEIGHTING is a process of analyzing and reconciling differing indication of value. So three methods है. Three methods पे differing indications है. एक पे 5 लाख और एक पे 4.5. Okay. और 3.5. So 5, 4.5, 3.5. So कौन सी value में लूँ? So you have to give weighting to one and you are negating to other. So the process of arriving at, please look at that, the process of analyzing and reconciling that method and you will come to a reasonableness. Oh, A method reasonable hai. So wo do method unreasonable hai. So I'll negate it. So I'm giving weighting to it. So here it is not that I'm giving 100% weightage and other two. It is I'm giving weighting because of the process followed. Okay, the word weight refers to the amount of reliance placed on a particular indications of value in reaching a conclusion. So both will look very, very close, but the approach is different. Okay. So the market approach should be applied and afforded significant weight under the following circumstances. Subject asset has recently been sold in a transaction. So I cannot take 10 year, 12 year, 20 साल के बाद कुछ transaction किया है, वो I cannot take it. The subject asset or substantially similar assets are actively publicly traded. And there are frequent recent observable transactions in substantially similar assets. So this is a very, very important para. Okay, 20.2. Before I take you to para number 30, I'll actually we have our because I need to actually discuss with you guys also with some lot of questions. I'm sure all of you will have many questions. So I'll try to actually want to hear you also because we have 120 participants. So I will hear from all of you also. So the last 10-15 minutes question answers be lenge. Okay. So I will very quickly highlight you the important pointers now. Para number 20.5. Yeah. When comparable market information does not relate to exact or substantially the same asset, the valuer must perform a comparative analysis of qualitative and quantitative similarities. and differences between comparable assets and subject assets. Generally, it will happen. For example, you have a company, private limited company, and private limited company doing a business, and it is a, for example, it is in a dal business, for example, or rice business, or oil business, or it is in a software company. Okay, so or it is in a telecom product manufacturer, some industry. It is a private limited company. So now you need to do the valuation of the shares for some purpose. So now, can I go by market approach? Yeah, a very similar company. Your company's turnover is 150 crores, and the comparable company's turnover is 5,000 crore, or 1,000 crore, or 800 crore. So 800 crores turnover, yours is only 150 crore turnover or 50 crore turnover, or even hardly 10 crore turnover. So where is 800 crore turnover, which is listed? Where is 10 crore turnover, which is unlisted, private limited company? Can I take this as comparable? Comparable. Please look at this. When comparable market information does not relate to the exact or substantially the same asset, yeah, substantially it is not same. वो तो मेरा टर्नओवर 10 crores है, वो 800 है. So 80 टाइम बढ़िया कंपनी है. The valuer must perform a comparative analysis of qualitative and quantitative similarities and differences between the comparable assets and subject asset. Subject asset is my valuation company. Comparable company is the big company, 800 crore company. It will often be necessary to make adjustment. Please look at this. That's it what I told you. Often be necessary. Underline that word, necessary. See, in accounting it is a sin. Adjustment, sin. Oh, no. Audit pay. No. So it is a sin in accounting. That is why when many should have I believe many are chartered accountants in this 120 plus friends. So for the time being, you have to wear the hat of a valuer, because when you wear the hat of a chartered accountant, you will only see the working as all this as a sin. But doing an adjustment is actually part of valuation. So you are a valuer, so you please remove this hat of accountant and wear the hat of valuer. So it will often be necessary to make adjustment based on this comparative analysis. Those adjustments must be reasonable, and valuers must document the reasons for adjustment and how they were quantified. And this is the adjustment they refer to you in para number 30.17. 30.17. Look at this. In the market approach, the fundamental basis for making adjustment is to adjust the difference between subject asset, that is a valuation company, and the guideline transaction are publicly traded. Guideline transaction and publicly traded are two methods. What is guideline transaction? Exactly similar asset. Transaction asset. So exactly similar. For example, I want to sell one BMW car. Example I'm taking. Okay, so we are not a plant and machinery valuer. I'm only taking an example. So we are say a BMW car. I want to do the valuation. So वो next area पे एक द्वारका पे और एक कुछ एक हफ्ते पहले, so very close, very 1 week back, एक हफ्ते पहले, there was a guy who sold one BMW car, the same range, okay, what is the same class what I'm having, only the color is different, and make is also same, the class is same, year of manufacture there is a 1 year difference is there, number of kilometers there is some difference is there, but it is called guideline transaction. It is called guideline transaction. So that I can take it, do some of the most common adjustments in the market approach are discounting premium. If my car is a classic car and that comparable car is a low category car, add premium. If the comparable car is a premium car and my car is actually a lower car, then discount it. That's the catch. Some of the most. Now, how much percentage you will discount? Standard is silent about. Standard will never speak about number. Standard will never speak about number. Standard will only say, did you do it? Why didn't you do it? 28% you discounted. Nobody can question you. You are valuer. You have been given the license by IBPA. Finish. That's all. Final. Why 28% you did? You reason it out in your valuation report. No. 28 ज़्यादा है. और एक valuer. No two valuer will agree on the same. No, we have how many? We have 120 participants here. Okay. And okay, Abhijit Kelker hai, Ajay Mohan hai, Anand Kumar Gawade hai, Ankita hai, Chandrasekhar Lavekar. And I am telling you, if for a same work, if we give to 10 valuers here, you mean to say we'll get the 10 same answers? No, we'll get 10 different answers. 10 different answers is correct. Is correct. So therefore, standard doesn't say that 18% premium ही ठीक है. No. Premium ठीक है. 18% is you are a valuer. You are a learned, educated, experienced valuer. You know very well. वो 18 ठीक है या 20% ठीक होगा या 30% ठीक होगा. What is it? You know. And that nobody can question. Even Supreme Court can't question. We have a number of court cases which supports. So have you done all those things? So all those steps have you done it? That's all. Okay. Some of the most common adjustments in the market approach are discounts and premium. What are the various discounts? We'll see. Now please look at those two approaches. Let me take you to the first approach. First method. Okay. The first method is comparable transaction method, which is actually in 30.1. Comparable transaction method, 30.1. Actually, the methods are this. Please look at this. Comparable transaction method, otherwise called guideline transaction method. Both are same. And I'll just share with you. This is the names used in ICA RVO. Comparable companies method, comparable transaction method. This comparable transaction multiple method is what is called as comparable transaction method or guideline transaction method under IVS. Under IVS, what is called comparable transaction method? In ICA, it is called comparable transaction multiple method. Second method, guideline publicly traded comparable method is what IVS says. ICA RVO says comparable companies multiple method. Okay, so just they have tweaked the English. And they are also speaking about DLYM, control premium, DLOC and all. Here also they speak about DLYM, control premium, DLOC, blockage discount and all. One additional method is discussed in market approach, which is not discussed in ICRVO. ICRVO discussed only two methods. Okay, two methods. Comparable companies market method and comparable transaction multiple method. Of course, one more method they discuss, that is called the market price method. Okay, and this market price method has some similarity with respect to the other two methods. So you can just go through that. And being an IVS, I can only give you the reference here. I don't want to go much deeper into it. But in IVS, there is one additional method which has been named, which is called as anecdotal or rule of thumb method. Now, in short, I'll tell you what you call this guideline publicly traded comparable method and comparable transaction method. Comparable transaction method 30.1. Comparable transaction method, also known as guideline transaction method, utilizes information transaction involving assets that are similar to the subject asset. Subject asset is the asset which you are going to do the valuation to arrive at an indication. Now, why? Please look at this. Utilize information on transaction. You have to collect. How will you collect that? Sitting in an air-conditioned room and then can you collect information? No, you have to go to market. You have to call people. You have to spend money. You have to spend time, effort, energy, money to collect this data. So go to the market and collect data. Or there are tools. There are softwares which data are there. People sell data. Today, knowledge is money. Data is money today. So people collect a lot of data and keep it. And valuers, you can actually pay that and get that data. So that is also possible. So some of the data are available free of cost, but Is it what do you say, a dependable one? Sometimes data will be a primary data and it will be a secondary data. That means the data which has been digested, average data and all, they will put it. So will you take the average data or will you take a primary data? Primary data means the last week, yesterday, in door number 72, third floor, one person sold one BMW car at this price. This is the primary data. What is secondary data? The average sale price of last week or last month is this. This is a secondary data. So which one you want to take is up to you. So utilizes information and transaction involving assets that are the same or similar to the subject. So same or similar is where the catchword is. To the subject asset to arrive at an indication of value. So that is an indication. So you give that value, and you cannot just in a report say the value is this. No. I referred this. This is a comparable transaction method. These are all the data I have taken. I'm for the simplicity, I'm taking 10 dates, 10 transaction date, and these 10 transaction, the extreme data I will knock it off. Close averages I will take, and I will take the average of that. That is one very interesting way of doing an indication. Nothing wrong in it. Or you can take which is the closest to the mean. That alone you can take. All other things, what do you call it as, which is skewed, highly skewed, you can remove it. Okay. So that is comparable transaction method. And there are some interesting example that is given in para number 30.4. Look at this. A comparable transaction method can use a variety of different comparable evidence. Very, very important para, I'll tell you. Because 30.4 is an example, and this is for the securities or financial asset people, SFA people, this para. Okay. Also known as units of comparison, which form the basis of comparison. For example, a few of many common units of comparison used for real property interest include price per square foot, rent per square foot, and capitalization rate. That is for the property people, okay, land and building people. A few of the many common units of comparison in business valuation includes EBITDA multiples, earnings multiples, revenue multiples, book value multiples taken, okay, from the comparable transaction company. A few of the many common units of comparison used in financial instrument valuation include metrics such as yields, interest rate spreads. Units of comparison used by participants in market participants. That is why it is called willing buyer and willing seller. That is called the participants. Can differ between asset class and across industries and geographies. Okay. For example, the yield and interest rate spread in Bombay and the yield and interest rate spread in Bengaluru, Bombay, Bengaluru, need not be same. Okay. Good. Now, I will actually take you to the 30.9. What is guideline publicly traded comparable method? Guideline publicly traded comparable method utilizes information on publicly traded comparables that are the same or similar to the subject asset to arrive at an indication of value. Publicly traded, BSE, NSE, okay, so stock exchanges. So that is why it's called publicly traded. And one very interesting point about this is, please look at para 30.10 compared to the guideline transaction. Compared to guideline transaction, guideline publicly traded is somewhat different. Why? Because the valuation metrics are available as on the valuation date. You want to do it on a particular date. For example, today's date is 9th of July. I want a valuation on this particular date. But in the comparable transaction method, you will only get a price something closer to this date. But here you will get on the valuation date itself. So that is one speciality. Second, these informations are readily available in public filings. So maybe in newspapers, Google, okay, you can actually go to some of the regulator sites, association sites. These prices will be disclosed there. It will be available. and you can download it, and it is authenticated. Okay, shows many regulators, they actually publish the rates. The information contained are prepared well understood accounting standards. So therefore, what do you call it as comparable? It is actually comparable, okay, and uniform and comparable. So that's the part about this. Now I'm taking you to para 30.15. The following para addresses a non-exhaustive list. Please, very careful. There's only non-exhaustive of certain special consideration that may form part of market approach. Special consideration. So what is number one? Anecdotal. Anecdotal is one of the additional method. This is actually a market approach method. Anecdotal or rule of thumb valuation benchmark are sometimes considered to be a market approach. Sometimes. Now, what is mean by anecdotal? Unreliable, unscientific, narrative, untrustworthy, informal. So, value indication derived from the use of such rules should not be given substantial weight unless it can be shown that buyers and sellers play significant roles. What do you mean by this? So, for example, the buyer and seller are okay with that price. So, for example, generally it will be for a restaurant business. Restaurant business recently started, only 6 महीना हो गया, 1 varies हो गया. So that guy can't run. He's actually finding somebody else to sell. He'll say, along with this business, goodwill, and chef and all those employees, everything, along with the assets and liabilities, stock and barrel, I'm going to sell it. What is the price? So can you go by cost approach? No, because there is some goodwill, some business is there, running business, it's running business. So people will say, okay, oh, kitna turnover ho raha hai ek mahine ka? So I'll pay 5x as the turnover. I'll pay 10x of the turnover, monthly turnover as the price for this. So who decides this? The buyer seller, they are agreeing for it because that will be the business ka mamla, business ka, what do you call it as the common parlance at which the business is sold in such a model. And it's been happening in the past also, and it's been happening in the current also. And both buyers and sellers are ready for it. The seller says 10x, buyer says 4x. The x is set. Whether it is 4 or 6 is the 10 is the only criteria. There the valuer will come and say, no, it is neither 4 nor 10 or 7.5x ठीक होगा. 7.5x you have to find some data. Okay, and then however value indication derived from the use of such rules should not be given substantial weight unless it can be shown buyers and sellers place. No, यही तो ठीक है, valuer आप बताइए कौन सा ठीक है. So 4x होगा और 10x होगा. No, 7x ही ठीक है. So you give a report for 7x under anecdotal rule of thumb method valuation. That's perfect. When both of them are agreeing for it, and in the purpose of the valuation, premise of the valuation, basis of valuation, you mention this, and then only you go for the approaches. Okay, it's a good one. So that's a simple thing about so Rajiv is making one point. Most of the attendees are land and building valuers, so kindly consider that also while giving examples. Okay, should we take Rajendran ji is making one observation? Should we take highest price or lowest price while considering publicly traded comparable transaction when there are number of transactions of same quantity? Wow. On a particular date, if you have multiple values, you take the closing rate or opening and closing and divide by 2, average you can take. So better to take closing rate. So when you have a highest price or lowest price, which considering publicly traded, so closing price you can take. So generally your share prices for the next day in the newspaper, when they say, they don't say all those things. They'll only say what is the closing price. Okay, so therefore you can go by that. Good. So now I'm going for the most important one. That is the adjustment part. Good. DLOC, DLOM. Now, discount for lack of marketability, especially whenever you have a very simple example I can give with respect to land and building, where you actually compare the guideline value as the market value. Guideline value as a market value. Now that particular building has some issues, vastu issues, some criminal records has been created, and some incidents have happened. So therefore, marketability is a big challenge. So naturally, you actually make some inquiries and then you note down the facts. Oh, good, 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 good. So will that have an impediment on your valuation? So even though the next, the opposite property, the neighboring property, near property, okay, the just adjacent property, those are all selling at a premium price. That particular property has some, what do you call this, a taboo or issues. So there, the lack of marketability can actually bring it. So this is a very practical example. And number one. Number two, where lack of marketability will be there. In valuation of shares. In valuation of shares, you are taking the valuation of a comparable company which is having a superior marketability. The moment you tell the name of the company, people are ready to buy. The moment you tell the number of my company, people are not takers of not there. So what do? So you take that price because both are same company. Only turnover wise, I am actually a small company. They are a big company. You take that price and discount it. So discount for lack of marketability there. Now, another thing is called control premium. And the opposite of control premium is called discount for lack of control. Now, what do you mean by control premium? For example, there is a transaction with respect to, I repeat, there is a transaction with respect to, I can give you one or two examples, one in a property transaction, one in a business transaction I can give. For example, a property transaction, let me take, or say business transaction, let me take. You are taking a comparable company. The comparable data is given by a shareholder who is actually a minority shareholder. So he has said, hey, last week or last महीना ही मैं तो एक डील खत्म किया था. So मेरा शेयर 8% था, वो 8% का शेयर में I have sold it, and this is the price. So can I take that price? And because here I have a client who is actually going to buy 80% of the company. 80% of the company is going to buy. So that is actually 8%. Here it is 80%. So can I take that price here? So when I take that comparable to my subject company, comparable is a non-controlling interest. The subject company is a controlling interest. So therefore, you will actually pad up the price. What do you call it as control premium? You will add up. Or reverse hoga. The data what you are taking was the data with respect to mergers and acquisition of two companies. So one company was buying out another company. At that time, this was a price given to all the shareholders. So almost dissenting shareholders were only 8% and 92% shareholders were price they take. So that price was taken. That's a comparable price. So that is actually controlling interest. Now, यहाँ एक 7% shareholder है, वो he is actually going to sell his shares. Oh, and then this is a non-controlling interest. So then you have to discount for lack of control. You will actually bring down the price to this. Now, what is that percentage is subjective, but adding up and then discounting premium, okay, compounding and discounting is a practice, is a prescription under para 30.17a, 30.17b. It is a prescription. Control premiums and discount for lack of control, opposite, okay. And what is the formula? Discount for lack of control is equal to 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus control premium. A formula. So control premium and discount for lack of control are applied to reflect differences between comparables and subject assets. Now, it can also be applied for plant and machinery. It can also be applied for what do you call it as land and building. If the control premium or discount for lack of control, it is possible because you are actually going to take a comparable price of a property nearby. That is that you want to take it as not a guideline value but the market value that you are taking. So that property is actually sold. It was actually a 3,000 square feet land. It was actually sold to somebody. He bought it. Now that price is actually 3 crore. So 3 crore divided by 3,000. So per square feet is 10,000 rupees. So taken that. Now you want to put that here. Here, it is not a 3,000 square feet, but yeah, 5,000 square feet. Right? And 5,000 square feet, they have constructed, say, around 30 apartments. So 30 apartments. And 5,000 divided by 30, it is 166 square feet. So what do you call it as a UDS? 166 or 167 UDS. And 167 is not controlling interest. It is a non-controlling interest. So there, can I take the same 10,000 here? Possible. Or you can discount it because this is not, you can add premium also, you can also discount. This all depends upon control premium and discount for lack of control are applied to reflect differences between the comparable and subject asset. Are you finding any differences first of all? And this difference is there or not there? No, it is there. So buying a property for 3,000 square feet and buying 166 or 167 square feet, the difference is there. Naturally, the price can be up or down. I don't say it should be reduced always. They don't actually say that it should be reduced or applied. They say. And discount are applied to reflect differences. All else being equal, participant would generally prefer to have control over a subject asset than not. However, participants' willingness to pay a control premium or DLOC will generally be a factor of whether the ability to exercise control enhances the economic benefits available to the owner of the subject asset. So, this 167 square feet, does it enhance the economic benefit or decrease it? This is the question. No, it enhances. Then add premium. No, it decreases. Then you discount it. So very interesting aspect. This para, you read it as many times as possible. I have read it. I will say more than 100 times I have read this paragraph. Very, very interesting. Okay. So anybody coming online? So good. So that's with respect to this. Now I'm taking you to income approach. Yeah. So please come to this income approach. We have the last half an hour, and after that we'll go for. I'll say income approach is very, very interesting. Why? Because they will discuss more about the discounted cash flows, and this is the ICA RVO approach with respect to income approach. So they speak about cash flows, discount rate, terminal value. Terminal value, they speak about the Gordon growth model, variable growth model, exit multiple, liquidation value, terminal value, all this they discussed. And with respect to what do you call it as IVS, here they discuss DCF method, what are the types of cash flows, explicit forecast period, cash flow forecast, terminal value, the Gordon growth model and constant growth model, market approach or exit value, and the salvage value or disposal cost, and then discount rate. So they consider each and every paragraph, and I want to tell you one very, very interesting aspect. Very, very interesting aspect. What is that? Discount rate. Please look at discount rate. This is one para. Compared to 2017 and 2020, they have added a lot of paragraphs. So many paragraphs they've added, and gives you lot of comfort, and the approach itself will be different when you read this. It's very, very interesting. So I'll also spend some time here. And after this, you have the cost approach. So what I will do now, I'll finish the cost approach and I'll come to this. Then we'll take the questions.
Sir, Harpreet has some query. I think he wants to say something. Harpreet ji, please say what you want to say. Sir, please continue. I think he's...
Okay, right. So now in cost approach, you have two methods, which is I will say, I'll bring it here. Yeah, 70.1. Methods. If you go by ICRVO, they will only discuss about two methods, what is called as a replacement cost method and reproduction cost method. And they will say, they will not use a word called broadly. There are three cost approach methods, is the word used here. But in ICRVO, they will not use a word called broadly. They'll say minimum two approaches are possible. So that means even ICRVO, they don't negate that only two methods are there, are more than two methods. So in cost approach, you have replacement cost, you have reproduction cost, and you have summation method. Now, before I take you to cost approach, I'll give you what cost approach means. Okay, so please look at para number 60.1. Okay, 60.1. This will actually say what it is. Cost approach provides an indication of value using the economic principle that the buyer will pay no more for an asset than the cost to obtain an asset of equal utility, whether by purchase or by construction, unless undue time, inconvenience, risk, or other factors are involved. So I am not going to pay premium. I will only compensate you. You have spent some money. Please look at this. Will pay no more for an asset than the cost to obtain an asset of equal utility. That is why when you say equal utility, how much you have spent, then it is historical cost. I would have, my waiting time is there. So therefore, something has to be added to that. So that is why the current replacement cost, the word is called current. Please look at 70.1. The method that indicates value by calculating the cost of the similar asset offering equivalent utility. And I want you to look at this term. Look at this definition. Generally, replacement cost is the cost that is relevant to determining the price that the participant would pay, as it is based on replicating the utility, not the exact physical properties. Replicating the utility. See, there is a software company. It actually happened. There is a company in Israel. There's a company in Israel. There was a company in Israel, and the name of the company was Waze, W-A-Z-E. They were the pioneer. I'm speaking about, we are now in 2020. I'm speaking about exactly 15 years before, 2005. That was the time when the Waze company was actually coming up very well, and it was hardly some 20 or 25 company, 25% company. That was the number of people there, and they were pioneer in bringing out a map, real-time map. Today, what Google is using is a real-time map with the traffic, real-time traffic indication. But Google at that time was also developing map, and it was a static map. It will only show a map. Boom. That's all. Nothing beyond that. You can zoom the map, zoom in, zoom out. That's all. So real-time traffic updates was given by Waze. At that time, who will actually go for that map? Naturally, Waze is the best app. So Google had a strategy: either kill the competitor or buy the competitor. This is the strategy they had. The 99.99% cases, they have not killed any competitor. They have only bought out the competitors. So that's why the company grew. And Waze was bought out. Israel company was bought out. And today, even today, you can download it. Google Play Store, you go and type WAZ, you can download it. Now, how do I value it? How do I value it? That company, they valued at some method. I'll come to that because that was an intangible asset, and you have an intangible asset valuation section 2, IVS 210, and there I will speak about more about that. But if the particular product is half complete, 70% complete, they said no, we are incomplete. We are. This is only in the beta model, not it's in the alpha model. So they said, okay, whatever is the cost you have spent up to date, I will pay you so that no loss to you. No loss to you. Now, Samjo, people like friends, Samji, I was referring about Sholay at the beginning. And the same Sholay, if it is remake today, replacement cost, replicating Sholay today, can I make it? It is difficult. Sholay, original is Sholay. That is why people try to actually remake Agnipath. And Vijay Dinanath Chauhan character, even Amitabh Bachchan, he tries to actually do that today. He tried it in Sarkar. So that was different genre. But Vijay Dinanath Chauhan was tried by Agnipath by Hrithik Roshan. But Hrithik Roshan is Hrithik Roshan. Amitabh Bachchan is Amitabh Bachchan. The slang at which Amitabh Bachchan spoke in the original Agnipath gave him he was actually awarded the national award. So that's different. Original is always original. So that's why replacement cost, if the same product, same asset, I build it today in today's price, it is called replacement cost. It's not replacement. The same asset, I would have made it 3 years back, 4 years back. That will be in balance sheet. Oh, balance sheet पे 40 लाख का मैं 40 लाख दूंगा. 40 लाख तो 3 बरस के पहले. अभी के वो asset अभी करूं तो replicating the utility of the asset, not the exact physical properties. Okay. And there is one term which I am missing actually. I don't know why I am missing that term. It is not here. Okay. And I think I'll go to 70.6 to know that. I think in 70.4 they are given. The key steps in replacement cost are calculate all the cost that would be incurred. Please look at this word. By the typical participant, that is the buyer, seeking to create or obtain an asset providing equivalent utility in today's terms. That is what's called current cost. I am actually searching for the word called current cost because current cost is very important. Okay. So determine whether there is any depreciation, all those stuff is there. Good. So the replacement cost generally that of a modern equivalent asset, which is one that provides similar function, equivalent utility, but which is of current design, considered on armament using the current cost effective material. It's current. So it is actually a replica, current replica. Most important word is replicating the utility of the asset, not the exact physical properties. Not exactly the physical properties. One day it actually happened. It was quite raining in our home. So we thought to actually have some vadas. So vada came actually. So me and my kids and all, so we were actually releasing the vada. The vada was the best, crispy. Yeah. So what we did, we said, okay, we'll summon Amma who actually made this. So she came. So my wife came. So I asked her, we are going to ask you some questions, so you have to answer. Okay. So tell me, so we took a paper, pen, everything. So we asked how much rice and that urud dal you actually put, what is the combination, how many minutes you actually, hours or minutes you actually soaked it in water, how you actually grinder pe rubata. So all those facts we actually noted down. So she was puzzled. Why you are asking all these nonsense questions? So you were okay only. So we said, no. We are documenting the entire process of manufacture of vada. Next time when you do vada, because every time when we ask for vada, sometimes it will come vada, sometimes it comes bonda, sometimes it comes a different item. We don't know what name to give. So therefore, you actually follow this process. So then you can replicate it the same. So that is why every time it is an experience I'm sure everybody will have in your home. But I'm from South India, so I'm speaking about vada. So many of you are North Indians, so you'll also have the same experience. So that's the replacement cost. But you have another method called reproduction cost. Reproduction, they say modern equivalent is greater than the cost of recreating a replica of the subject asset. Now, look at this verse and look at that words there. They are also replicating the utility of the asset. Replicating the utility of the. Here it is recreating a replica. Replicating the utility only. Replicating the utility. But here it is recreating a replica. That is reproduction. So, definitely reproduction cost is, I will say, even the standard gives a criteria. It will be not very practical, not much practical. Reproduction cost is appropriate in circumstances such as the following. The utility offered by the subject asset could only be provided by a replica rather than a modern equivalent. Please look at this. Generally, where you can use it, when you want to actually create a same design, okay, same design, all those stuff. But generally, we come across very rarely, very rare. But this model, this method is there. Okay. And there is another method called summation method. Guys, we have another method called summation method. And what is this method and where summation method is used? For example, there is a chain of investments that is made by one holding company. And one holding company, I'm doing the valuation. So if I do the valuation of a holding company, the money, for example, 10 crore my company पे invest किया था, वो company और एक 20 company पे invest किया है. So how do I value that particular company in which 20 crore is invested? Unless and otherwise, those money that has been invested in various companies, I know the valuation of that. For example, 18 company पे मैं invest किया है. So then what I will do? I'll take the valuation of each and every company, add that total, and that will be the valuation of my 10 crore or 20 crore of investment. So that is called summation method. So summation method, also referred to as the underlying asset method, is typically used for investment companies. Please look at this. Or other types of assets or entities for which value is primarily affected of the value of their holdings. So wow, very good. Now, before I take you to income methods, I'll take you to the valuation modeling. 90.1. Please look at this 90.1. Yeah, very important. So I'm giving you some of the spreadsheet models given by the valuation guru Vatswat Damodaran. That is a site. You can actually click this and go and find out there are various spreadsheet models available. The very interesting part of all this is, so modeling, valuation modeling. Valuation model refers collectively to the quantitative, not qualitative. Okay, quantitative method, systems, techniques, and qualitative judgments used to estimate. So maybe, for example, what is the valuation adjustment you will do? That is actually a judgment. From the judgment, you will get a number. That number you will use for quantitative. So therefore, a mix of qualitative and quantitative is there. So that design, that comes with a model used to estimate a document value. And when using and creating a valuation model, the valuer must, please look at this, keep appropriate records to support the selection or creation of the model. Why did you actually do this stuff? Why did you multiply? Why did you add? Why did you subtract? Why did you take this cost of capital? Why did you take the discount rate? You need record. You need records. You need evidences. This is a prescription of the standard. Understand and ensure the output of the valuation model, the significant assumptions, the limiting conditions are consistent with the basis and scope of valuation, and consider the key risk associated with the assumptions made in the valuation model. And 90.3, please look at this. Regardless of the nature of the valuation model, to be IVS compliant, the valuer must ensure that the valuation complies with all other requirements contained within this IVS. Now I'll take you to the income model, guys. Income approach. And in income approach, let me first tell you the para number 50.4. 50.4 gives you the the steps actually, and from that I'll take you to one para. This 50 para 50 is very big actually. The para 50 will start. The para 50 will go for actually 8 pages, and it has 40 paras. I have 40 paras. Okay, so let me take you to 50.1. Okay, good. Look at 50.1 guys. Although there are many ways to implement the income approach. Now, income approach is very simple. The steps are given in 50.4. Okay, 50.4. We'll see that. Although there are many ways to implement the income approach, methods under the income approach are effectively based on discounting the future amount of cash flows to present value. There are variations of the DCF method, and the concepts below apply in part or in full to all income approach methods. So they don't say method 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and all. They only say all income approach methods. I repeat, all income approach methods, the key steps in DCF method. Okay, so please look at this. They are, okay, they are variations of the DCF method. What is they are? They are the methods. The methods under the income approach are effectively based on discounting future amount of cash flows to present value. And they are variations to DCF methods. And the concept below apply in part or full to all income approach methods. What are they? A DCF method is forecasting the future cash flow and then discounting back to the present value. Okay, this is very simple. But what are the key steps? Now I want to make a small difference here. There are circumstances for long-lived or indefinite-lived assets. Now here I want to make one observation. The word is called indefinite. It is not infinite. Many of you should understand indefinite and infinite. Don't think both are same. Indefinite, you have to review every year that whether it is indefinite or not. There may be circumstances where it will become definite. Damal, things will change. Infinite is different. So never there is a term called infinite used here. Please watch. It's only indefinite. Why? Because you have to review every year. So in some circumstances for long-lived or indefinite-lived asset, DCF may include a terminal value. So there also, even if it is indefinite, you have to take a definite terminal value, which represents the value of the asset at the end of the explicit projection period. So explicit projection period, from here you can only see, and how much years should be an explicit period? 5 years, 8 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10, 12, 13. So we have to see. Please wait, I'll tell you that. Okay. These are the key steps. Choose the appropriate type of cash flow. This is para number 50.5 to 50.7. What is the type of cash flows? Determine the most appropriate explicit period. Para 50.8 to para 50.11. Prepare the cash flow forecast. Para 50.12 to 50.19. Determine whether terminal value is appropriate for the subject asset. Para 50.20 to para 50.22. Determine the appropriate discount rate. Okay. Determine the appropriate discount rate. Para 50.29 to para 50.40. Oh my God. So let us see one by one. So what's the first one? Let's see the type of cash flows. Now here, you have to be very clear, very, very clear. Now, whether you will take the free cash flow of the firm or free cash flow of the equity, this is what they speak about. When selecting the type of cash flow for the nature of asset or assignment, valuer must consider, this is the word must, the factors below. What are they? In addition, the discount rate and other inputs must be consistent with the type of cash flow. For example, if you use free cash flow of the firm, you must use the overall cost of capital or weighted average cost of capital. When you use the free cash flow of the equity, you must discount with the equity cost of capital. That is why the word. In addition, the discount rate and other input must be consistent with the type of cash flow. Consistent. Now, cash flow to whole asset or partial asset. Okay. Then, should cash flow be pre-tax or post-tax? Then, should we take the real cash flow or nominal cash flow? Then what is the currency I have to use? Okay, so all these aspects has to be considered. Very, very interesting. Cash flow to whole asset or partial asset. It all depends upon the business. For example, you are valuing the entire company for the purpose of amalgamation or merger, then whole asset. Now, that particular company has, say, 13 divisions. One division alone you are going to sell. Then that division alone, that division cash flow alone you have to do, not the entire company's cash flow. So, very interesting. Now, how do you do that? Typically, cash flow to the whole asset is used. However, occasionally other levels of income may be used as well, such as cash flow to equity or dividend. Cash flow to the whole asset is most commonly used because an asset should theoretically have a single value. It's independent of how. But there are situations where you will do the vertical, one business vertical alone you will actually sell. Then you need to do the valuation of the cash flow of that particular vertical only. So partial interest. Should the cash flow be pre-tax or post-tax? If a post-tax is used, the tax rate applied should be consistent with the basis of value, and many instances would be a participant tax rate rather than the owner-specific one. Now, what do you mean by owner-specific one? Now, if seller will be there, buyer will be there. Now, when I do the cash flows, the participant specific, what do you mean by participant specific? Buyer, because after that acquisition date, the cash flows belong to the buyer company. So therefore, the tax rate of the buyer company should be used, not the tax rate of the selling company. So very important. Okay. And if you are using the weighted average cost of capital and free cash flow, it should post-tax only. And what do you call it as? The weighted average cost of capital is also cost of debt will be post-tax. So therefore, since your discount rate is post-tax, your cash flows also should be post-tax. So if a post-tax basis is used, then the tax rate applied should be consistent with the basis of value. Now, what if pre-tax cash flows is used? Yes, then your discount rate should be pre-tax. Please be careful. Okay. Generally, it is not pre-tax unless and otherwise the cash flow matches. Okay. For example, it is only debt capital you are concerned about. You are not concerned about equity. So then pre-tax you will consider, but there will also be an element of capital structure. So therefore, an equity is always post-tax. So you can't keep a debt at pre-tax and equity at post-tax. Not advisable. So therefore, cash flow should be at post-tax. Then nominal versus real. Real cash flow does not consider inflation. Now we are come to the 7:46, guys. I'll take another 5 more minutes, and after that, I leave the floor open for all of you. Now, before this, I will actually go to some important aspects. Explicit forecast. How many years, guys, you will actually forecast? Okay. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Okay. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 baras? So let's see. The selection criteria will depend upon the purpose of the valuation, the nature of the asset, the information available, the required basis of value. For an asset with a short life, is most likely to be both possible and relevant to project cash flows over its entire life. So the valuer should consider the following factors. What are they? Life of the asset, reasonable period where the data is available, minimum explicit forecast period which should be sufficient for an asset to achieve a stabilized level of growth and profits, after which a terminal value can be used. This has to be reasoned out. Why you are actually fixing 5 years, 4 years, 6 years as an explicit forecast period. This has to be freezed. Okay. This has to be reasoned out. You can't just like that say I'm taking up to 5 years. Why 5? Why 5? Not Wi-Fi connectivity. Why 5 years? You have to give a reason. Good. And then the valuation of cyclical assets. The explicit forecast period cannot go beyond that cyclical period. 7 years is cyclical period. We generally include entire cycle when possible. That's the most ideal one. For a finite lived assets, such as financial instrument, the cash flow will typically for the entire life. Okay, over the full life. Now I want to take you to the next one. Cash flow forecast. 50.12. Very, very important para. I mean, this is a very important para. How will you forecast it? Cash flow forecast for the explicit forecast period is constructed, very important guys, using prospective financial information. This projected. So project it. Now, how will you project it? Just like that, you balloon. No, no. Based on the past, you have to project. Based on the past, you have to project. कल क्या हुआ? वही वो उसका what do you call it as उसका impact ही future में होगा. Okay. So that's why please look at this. As required by para 5.40.50.12, regardless of the sources of the projected financial information, a valuer must perform analysis to evaluate the projected financial. That is why I call corroborate. I was referring to this word corroboration before. You have to corroborate because these data will be given by management. Sir, this is the forecast of the past, the next 10 years. 10 years is very rosy. On this rosy picture, he knows very well. He gives rosy picture. The valuation will be very fancy number. That is rosy, this is fancy. The valuer must perform analysis to evaluate the projected financial information because what you have done, from there only you can project. And there should be some basis. Or there should be some orders expected, work he has already done, going on work, okay, ongoing work. The assumptions underlying the projected financial information, the appropriateness, the suitability of the projected financial and the underlying assumptions will depend upon the purpose of the valuation. Okay, very important. So, please Lee, from where purpose till method he is giving a connect. Okay. For example, cash flow used to determine market value should reflect projected financial information that would be anticipated by participants. Who's participant? Market participant, buyer and seller. Naturally, buyer. The buyer only is going to actually live with that asset. So, what is his expectations? In contrast, investment value can be measured using cash flow that is based on the reasonable forecast from the perspective of a particular investor. The cash flow is divided into suitable periodic intervals, okay, with the choice of interval depending upon the nature of the asset. The projected cash flow should capture the amount and timing of all future cash inflows and outflows associated with the subject asset. Typically, the projected cash flows will reflect one of the following. What is the promised cash flow? Single most likely set of cash flows. Probability weighted expected cash flows. Scenario 1, pessimistic. Scenario 2, optimistic. Scenario 3, most likely. Give weightage. 20%, 20%, 60%. Then do find expect. That is also expected cash flow. That is also correct. Multiple scenarios of possible future cash flows. And that you can actually, scenario 1, what is the valuation? Scenario 2, what is the valuation? After valuation, you can do the averaging or you can negate it or you can give weightage. All those stuff you can do. And I'll just close my discussion with terminal value. And this is one place I want to share one. IVS is very, very poor here with respect to here. What one line they finished it. How do you value terminal value? Gordon growth model, DGM, that a terminal value is equal to D1 divided by KE minus growth rate. This is the formula. Look at this. The constant growth model assumes that the asset grows or declines at a constant rate. Variable growth, he doesn't speak about it. He doesn't speak. IVS has to speak about it. But this is the place where ICRVO is better than IVS. There they give both. They say DGM method, they say constant growth model, they also say variable growth model. So therefore, maybe IVS, they would have, by oversight, they would have missed it. Or by referring to the dividend growth model, constant growth model, variable growth models also is part and parcel of it is what we should actually construe it, but explicitly not mentioned. So that I want to make an observation here. Okay. So I must thank each and every one of you guys for being very, very patient with me, especially for the past 2 hours, 60 plus 60, 120 minutes. You have been very patient. Thank you very much, all the 100 plus participants for
Sir, there are some questions, Raju.
For any questions.
Sir, one question from Naresh Kumarji. Examples of reproduction method.
Okay. I'll give you. So reproduction or replacement?
Reproduction.
Reproduction. Okay. Good. Now let me give an example. Now here it is the word that is used. What do you call it as the modern equivalent? Recreating a replica of the subject asset, not similar asset, the same asset. Now, where you can use a reproduction cost approach, especially, can I use it in a software? Can I use it in a telecom? Can I use it in an intangible asset? Definitely, intangible asset, you cannot use reproduction cost. It will only be replacement cost. Now, where you can use a reproduction cost, I'll give an example because it is current cost.
Example दिया ताज महल का.
It is current cost. It is current. In land and building, for example, there is a heritage building. Okay, heritage building. It is actually more than 40 years or 50 years old. Especially even today, some of the places you go to places like Udaipur, you go to Jaipur, Udaipur, all those places. Havelis will be there. Even today, people prefer that Havelis, that model, and I want to actually do the valuation of that. Now, that is coming for a distressed sale. He doesn't want to sell, but it is coming for a distressed sale. So he is not coming for a fancy. They don't want to actually liquidate it and want to make money. So some circumstances they're coming for a distress. Now in a distressed sale, the minimum most is what do you call it as at cost. At cost, I don't want to give less than the cost. So that will be the fundamental criteria. So the same Haveli, if I remake in today's prices, in today's price, it will be very costly. I'm telling you, because those architecture, lamba beams, those structures and all, it will maybe those days the cost, historical cost is different, and today's current cost for the same design, it's very I will say even some of those Havelis recreating today with today's technology, people will say no, this material is not available. This how do I do it? Better design I will do, but this design I will not do. All those stuff will come. So therefore, practicality of this reproduction cost will actually be a challenge, but sometimes there will be a necessity. No, I don't want the modern part of it. I want the same. If it is done in present cost, tell me what is the present cost. Maybe there you have to apply your engineering technique, equivalent material, what is available today, the labor cost, all those stuff you have to take, designing cost, and the number of days, curing, gearing, this, everything you have to take, and then you have to do it, which to some extent you can actually replicate it. You can actually replicate. That is why I gave the example of Sholay. I gave the example of Agnipath. Original Agnipath, Vijay, Dinanath Chauhan is that. It is difficult. Dawn is dawn. Dawn ko pakadna mushkil nahi, na mumkin hai. It is difficult. Amitabh Bachchan, dawn is different. Shah Rukh Khan, dawn is different. Shah Rukh Khan is Shah Rukh Khan. Amitabh Bachchan is different. But replicating is, it's very difficult. So that's why generally reproduction cost only in a very special circumstances it will be taken, not in all circumstances. Thank you. Next question.
Sir, if there is a valuation of a private limited company having a turnover of 100 crore, comparable of 10 crore turnover is available. So how to make adjustment?
Sir, I think your voice is, I'm not very.
How to make
Sir, your voice, I'm not able to hear it.
Sir, we have to value a private limited company having a turnover of 100 crore. But the comparables of 1,000 crore companies available, not 100 crore. So how do we make adjustment?
Oh, very good. Now, for example, the purpose of valuation is, say what you have is, you have the 1,000 crore companies data. 1,000 crore companies data, is it a superior marketability data or an inferior marketability data? Now let us presume that the comparable company data is a superior marketable. That means controlling interest data you have taken. But this 100 crore company, you are actually doing the valuation of a non-controlling interest. So controlling interest data, can you actually replicate here? No, you can't. So you have to actually make a DLOC, discount for lack of control. Now, by discounting it with respect to that controlling interest and non-control, controlling interest there, it would have been 60% or 70%. That pricing you would have taken. That price, can you apply here? No, you have to actually discount it because you are doing the valuation here only for some 18% or 7% or 2% ka hoga. So therefore, you have to do a discount. It can be reverse also. There, for 5% share value you would have taken, and here you are going to acquire the entire 100%. Then it is the controlling interest. So then you can actually even add a premium to it because the entire stock, barrel stuff, goodwill, ityadi, everything that owner is able to, that particular new management, they can actually enjoy. And maybe tomorrow this company also can go up. So therefore, possibility of a premium is also possible. But how much? It all depends upon the various other factors, business factors, economic factors. And one of the factors with respect to the, what do you call it as, the consideration with respect to factors for premium or discount, they say economic consideration also should be done. Okay, that is also given here. Next question, sir.
कोई वेबसाइट का नाम मिलेगा फॉर वैल्यूएशन मॉडल्स?
जी,
फॉर वैल्यूएशन मॉडल कोई वेबसाइट का सैंपल मिल सके?
मैं तो एक वेबसाइट, लॉट ऑफ मॉडल्स आर देयर. ये तो लिंक है, ये लिंक पे लॉट ऑफ स्प्रेडशीट्स आर अवेलेबल. यू कैन गो एंड डाउनलोड इट. इट्स ओनली फॉर शेयरिंग. Aswath Damodaran ji ka website hai. It's an academic site having a
Okay, some participants have shared on the chat box.
Yeah. This site, this will actually, I will share this entire PowerPoint in my blog, so people can download it and you can use this. And
definitely, I will share the PPTs of sir to all the participants tomorrow, possibly.
Yeah.
Sir, I think बाकी तो interactive section रहा. Someone is asking the question and other participants are giving the answer. So they are themselves are interacting with each other.
Oh, that's so nice. Whether DLOM to be applied on enterprise value or equity value. DLOM yield discounts only, but DLOC may yield premium as well as discount. Is it correct? Oh, they are asking questions, sir.
Mr. DP Wadhwa wants to say something.
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Wadhwa ji, please ask. Wadhwa ji, please ask.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, Wadhwa ji.
Sir, I have put a question that I should know the name of the site where the valuation models are available. Can you spell out that site?
Yeah. I have actually shared it in my PPT, sir. It is there. Spreadsheet model site. http://pages.stern.nyu New York University.edu/.
Okay,
Wadhwa ji, don't worry. Wadhwa ji, don't worry. The sir's PPT will be shared with you, sir, with all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, now the time is reaching. So, thanks to all the participants and a special thanks to our today's speaker, CA Dr. Gopal Krishna Raju ji, for giving such wonderful deliberation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, आपके पास end का button है. You are the host.
I'll do that, sir. Thank you.